Cops of Reddit. What has so far been the creepiest call you've ever had to respond to, and what happened? Do paramedics count? I responded to a call from a father who needed help applying medicinal cream to his 13-year-old daughter's vagina to heal her STD. He said he tried to do it himself but it was swollen shut. I just brought her to the hospital. Was she disabled? I don't see any other reason besides that for not being able to just do it herself. Or maybe she had some kind of traumatic freak out doing it herself, so he tried and got freaked out too. I don't know. 911 dispatcher reporting in. Received a call from an elderly lady who had trouble breathing. I had taken several calls from her and her husband in the past, so I recognized her voice. I dispatched an ambulance to her residence and held her on the line, trying to keep her calm while the ambulance was responding. Ambulance advised that they a 15-minute ETA. She lived in a very rural part of WV. I'm talking to her, asking about her husband and how he was doing and just making small talk with her. The ambulance calls in and advises they are on scene, and I let them know that she is in severe respiratory distress and I still had her on the line. I let her know the ambulance is coming to the door to go answer the door, and she says okay and hangs up the phone. Pretty normal, yeah? Well, here's where it gets weird. The EMT and paramedic on scene call back about a minute later and advises no one is answering the door. We have a sheriff unit who was in the area pulling on scene about that time. The sheriff unit confirmed the address and advised he is breaching the door to make access to the PT. 5 minutes go by and the paramedic on scene radios in asking who the caller was. I advise it was the elderly female who lived at the residence. He tells me that he's going to call in and needs to speak with the supervisor on shift. We get him over to the supervisor and the supervisor confirms the information that I gave him and asks what's going on. Apparently the elderly female had been dead for a while and was already in full rigor mortis. They thought I was wrong on the caller, but the other dispatchers played it back and confirmed that it was the female who called. The ambulance transferred the hospital and we got the same calls and disbelief from the doctors. So I took a call from a ghost. I am interning with the sheriff's police department, so most of my time is spent on patrol. We got called out to do a wellness check, which the deputy thought was going to be a piece of cake, like she was out of town or something. We get there and are met by the neighbors who told us that the mail is piling up in the mailbox and that there are several untouched packages on the porch. Okay, so we go up the house and the front door is unsecured. So we crack open the door a couple of inches and the deputy calls inside. But the door won't move anymore. The house was one of those split houses where the stairs meet at the front door and the upstairs and downstairs are offset, so we concluded that there might be stuff behind the door. It's about this time that the deputy tells me that she is a known hoarder and that could be why the door was stuck. He also mentions that if we see flies on the inside of the windows, she is most likely inside and deceased. As we walk around the side of the house, we notice a lot of flies on the windows. The back door was locked, and as we looked in, we noticed bags on bags of garbage, diapers and miscellaneous peep all over the place. We head back to the front and attempt to make entry. He pushes the door open. This time with more force. And from underneath I see a grease-like liquid spreading out from under the door. The deputy stops, closes the door and calmly tells me that the lady was indeed dead and wedged behind the door. From the dates of the packages we concluded that she had been gone about 2 months. Once we did make entry into the house, I was allowed inside. After 2 months she didn't even look like a human corpse. Her skin and body had sagged and melted to the floor, and her face was all black and had been eaten to the bone by maggots. I'll never forget the smell when the coroners moved her and she popped. It was like a physical presence. Whatever those people get paid to deal with that speep, it's not enough. The thing that really got to me though, was wondering if she had fallen down the stairs and died there. Or if she fell and was unable to move and waited for help that would never come. Went to a welfare check. A neighbor called in, he hasn't seen this guy for a few days and the lights have been on for a while. I go and look around and find no footprints or tire marks in the snow recent storm. I check the garage and nothing. I checked the house, which was unlocked, and found the guy's cell phone, keys, wallet and cash with the TV on. That's when I realized this was now a dead body search. I looked everywhere in and outside the house and around the garage. There were several old junk vehicles on the property, but again, no tire marks or shoe prints or anything. I call all recent numbers on his phone and no one's heard from him. Only so much I can do, so I issue a ball and we start getting NCIC paperwork ready. Next day the day shift officer goes over to follow up. Turns out, the guy was plowing his driveway and either had a medical condition or something and either passed out or died on the spot and crashed the truck onto the other junk cars, which then caught on fire undefined. I'm not a cop, but my dad just recently shared these stories with me. My grandfather was a cop in a small town in the 60s to 70s. Late at night it was common for officers to pull over vehicles driving through town, especially if they didn't recognize them. He pulls over a bus load of people. He walks through and asks them where they are headed. Yada yada. They were headed to California. It was Charles Manson and his group. Another story. Same grandfather. Same stop, a car passing through protocol. Asked the driver where he was headed. BS'd for a while and told the guy to have a nice evening. Few towns over, guy gets pulled over again. Shoots and kills the cop. Apparently he was doing this as he drove along. Get pulled over and shoot the cop. When they questioned him, he said he had been pulled over by my grandfather. But he was such a nice guy, he didn't kill him. But he did have the gun sitting in his lap. This has some twisted backwards karma going on. Let a murderous psychopath go. Then a murderous psychopath lets him go. From a post I made a few weeks ago. I was called out to negotiate with a 17-year-old female who had barricaded herself in a bathroom with multiple knives and scissors. She'd done it right too. SWAT ended up going through the sheetrock wall. She wouldn't talk with me at all, but had multiple graphic conversations with her mother, who committed suicide 3 years earlier, and her dad, who's serving lots of years in prison for sexually abusing her. When SWAT pulled her out, she had completed multiple circumcisions on herself with the scissors, completely cut her nipples off, and had sodomized herself multiple times with multiple steak knives. The kicker was, she was talking the whole time and her tone or volume never changed. The pain never bothered her. Or, more likely, she never felt it. The human mind is scary as feep. Not a cop, but answering 911 lines. Had an open line of a guy yelping out. In between thud noises. He didn't respond to anything I said. Turns out, those thuds were the sounds of him chopping off his fingers with a meat cleaver. Had a Good Samaritan call about a guy pulled up in front of a medical center in his car. He had a travel blender plugged into his vehicle and he was bleeding heavily. He had chopped his dick off and put it in the blender. I forget the specifics as to why, but it had something to do with a pending child molestation or rape case. Last but not least, the one that will stick with me, is the woman who called at around 8 in the morning on a Sunday telling me, in an eerily calm voice, that she had killed her baby by bashing his head into the floor because the devil was inside him. I didn't believe her. It was true. Undefined. I stopped a 25-year-old Asian male from entering the east executive entrance of the White House. He had slit his wrists and neck prior to his arrival, but not deep enough to hit major blood vessels. He told me that he was a secret agent working for J. Edgar Hoover and that he was 60 years old. He said he had important information to pass to President Obama. I ended up having to detain him, stop the bleeding and then involuntarily commit him. Turned out to be a local college kid, going through some mental health issues. I've field interviewed hundreds of White House callers, but this